Let's start with the overrated players. Who's one forward do you think gets more buzz than they should?
Uh, you never really want to do overrated segment because somebody's gonna have something negative to say about your opinion. But it's my opinion, so I'm gonna go with Connor Garland of the Vancouver Canucks, recently a Coyote. Um, the reason I chose him, I actually had Jamie Benn wrote down first, but I kind of felt like it was a slight to the guy. I mean, he's got Olympic gold and Art Ross, and I didn't feel too good about leaving him there. It just felt wrong. So I had to go with a guy who's not as decorated, I guess. I chose Connor Garland. He was a fifth round pick in 2015, 123rd overall to the Coyotes. And for him to even be in the NHL right now, I mean, shows shows a lot about the guy. So he obviously works hard and plays well. But you know, let's go over the stats before I say
Yeah,
why I
that's
think
one
he's
player
overrated.
I'm kind of surprised. I wouldn't think that. I want to hear. I want to hear more
Yeah,
about
well,
Connor Garland.
he came into the NHL in 18-19, and he played 47 games. He had 13 goals, 5 assists for 18 points. So I mean that's not a bad showing for a guy who's drafted in the fifth round, right? But 1920 he goes in, he plays 68 games, 22 goals, 17 assists, and 34 points. So I mean another respectable year. And this year he had 49 games played with 12 goals, 27 assists for 39 points in 49 games. That's pretty good. The reason I'm saying he's overrated is because pretty much you don't have a lot going on in Arizona. And when I'm watching any media covering Arizona, it's Connor Garland. They're talking about the guy like he's a superstar. In my eyes, he had um, one really productive year, which was this year, which was 39 points in 49 games played. He just signed a 5-year deal at 4.95, but we'll say 5 mil because it's basically 5 mil.
Yeah,
So 5 years at 5 mil for one season where he's 10 points below um, a point per game. I don't know. I find that's a bit of a long contract for a guy who's just breaking into the league. He is 25 years old, but it seems a bit risky. And Jim Benning's a guy that's known for giving out shitty contracts,
that's
more
right.
or
That might
less.
age badly. You never know.
And I mean, like, you got a guy like look at Taylor Hall. I mean, he's fucking won the heart. He's signed for 6 mil in this like cap shithole we're in right now this year with everything not going up and revenue problems. So I don't know. 5 times 5 is a lot for a guy who's just breaking in, and at best, I think he's on a good team. I think he's a second line forward. Not saying that second line forwards don't get paid 5 mil, but he's not like a guy like a Jordan Eberle or Jaden Schwartz. Somebody like that who's been a good top six for a while and probably what you're getting every year. I find moving from a team now, he's only ever been in Arizona. So for him to move, I don't think you know what you have there. So it was a bit risky.
Yeah,
Uh, I'd
I
like
would
that
have thought
better
of
if it
that.
was 2 years.
Yeah, yeah, something to give him to so he can prove himself. You're right. I would
See
have
what you
thought
got.
that. I mean, 10 points shy of point per game. I mean, what if it was an 82 season? And he got 72 points.
Yeah, I think it was 82 season. He might have dropped off. Is what my thing is.
Okay, yeah, I'd
Maybe
be
he's a
interested to
50 point
see.
guy, but we don't know, right? I mean, I just feel like he's a bit overrated right now. People are gassing him up a little bit too much for my liking, but I think he's a great player. And I mean, just because I got him on an overrated list doesn't mean I don't think he's a great player.
Yeah,
I'd love to
no,
have
this
him on
isn't.
teams to cheer for.
Yeah, this isn't what this is supposed to be. We're not calling any of these players shit or dog water, nothing like that. We're just, you think he gets too much buzz and he does, and I wouldn't have thought that, but yeah, I mean, in this age, where some superstars in the league are only getting paid 6 mil, and so to give a guy
Yeah,
just 1 mil shy of that, yeah, no, you're kind of suggesting that this guy should be
top
uh,
six for a
up there
long
with the
time.
best of them. Yeah,
But I would have thought it would have been a lot better at probably 2 years of 5 mil because I mean, first time changing NHL teams as well. I mean, it's not only the hockey perspective. I mean, you got to fucking move everything, and I mean, it's just a big change in your life. So you don't know how he's going to handle that. And he might go this year and he might score 70 fucking points, and I might look like a fucking joke. But I don't know. I just thought it was a good choice. Somebody who's a little bit off the board who, you know, does get a bit of buzz. So that's my
yeah,
forward.
I
Who
like
are
that.
we gonna discuss your forward? Or are we gonna move on to my defenseman? What do you think?
I know. I'll take mine now. All right, man. This might be a bit controversial to some people, but I'm saying Patrick Kane.
Oh, oh,
Yeah,
Caleb.
I know. I know. The
Oh,
reason I say this is just because I don't know. I feel like his defensive game just takes away from his offensive. Like he's probably the best American forward for I don't know we've ever seen in the game. But I mean, just this defensive game. Like I'll run through some stats now for you. So in 2019, he played 70 games, had 33 goals and 51 assists for 84 points. Now that's an amazing season. That's
oh yeah,
14 points over point per game. So I mean,
yeah.
great forward, but he was only +8. So that means even with all those points, his line only got 8 more goals than they let in when he was on the ice.
Mhm.
If we look at last season in 56 games, um, he got 15 goals, 51 assists for 66 points now. I mean, again, 10 points over point per game. So there's nothing
Mhm.
broken with his offense at all.
No, definitely
But
not.
last season, he was -7. So even with those 66 points, there was still 7 more goals scored against his line. So, I mean, it might not be all him. It might be a shaky Chicago team last year. But I mean, um, like he never seen I don't know. His defense of the game just isn't great. Isn't
And I
best for
think you got a
me.
good point. I think you got a good point, but I think what people are going to argue to you is the team around him. But I do think you
Yeah.
have a good point because that is
All
a good
right.
way to look at it.
I was hoping you'd say that. So the only way this guy seems to stay positive is when he plays with Taves. So in all of his years, so his highest plus minus was +17 and 15, 16. And this is when he was playing with Taves and they won a cup that year. So I mean
That's not a
the
high
team
plus minus either for the points the guy puts up.
I mean I know he like that was probably one of his best seasons, but his lowest was -20 in 17, 18.
Oh,
So I mean, 20 more goals are scored against you in a year. It's probably not all him. Like the team is, it
yeah.
needs a lot of work, but just I don't know. That's why I think that a lot of people just overrate this guy. Just because if you're talking about like getting wins and losses, um, that kind of plus minus isn't getting you wins. That's costing you a lot of games in the long run. So I feel like fans, we overrate him. We look at him, say, Showtime, look at him selling, scoring highlight reel goals. But then I feel like the coaches and general managers around the league are really saying, like, this guy isn't as good. This guy isn't great for winning. He needs pieces around him. He's not like a Crosby or a McDavid.
No,
And I'll
and
just
that's
give
that's
you,
right. That's right. He's not a Crosby or McDavid,
yeah,
and
he doesn't make his team better. He scores highlight reel goals, and we fucking love it. I love it. He's one of
yeah,
my favorite players.
he is an amazing hockey player.
Yeah. So even
But
he is one of my favorite players, but I must say, in the hockey community, he is very overrated. I'll just give
and he
you,
will. Anybody who scores goals like that is going to be
yeah,
talked out about as being the best at what they do. And I mean, he deserves that because he has a lot of talent. But defensively, he's not going to win a cup being the guy defend like to do it all. Like
yeah.
you said, like even like
I'll give you a
a
couple now. I'll give you a couple, and you can kind of just let them marinate.
all right.
So, all right, we're gonna look at the other two players from last season that got 66 points. So one was Matthews in 52 games. Um, well, he got all those points. Might not have looked the best in the playoffs, but he still had 66 points.
Fucking
But
racket Richard winner, man.
yeah, even on that defensively bad team, a lot of people would say Matthews was still a +21. That's better than um, Kane's highest year, even after winning a cup.
Oh,
So
he's really good defensively, man. He's
yeah,
like he's really underrated just because Matthews has the style of Patrick Kane. He can score some highlight reel goals, but he's actually really good defensively. And I don't think people talk about it enough, honestly. I think
he
he's
is.
it's criminally underrated for that. And he's a really good hockey player. That's why he's in a lot of people's top 4, top 5 centers because he does have good defensive game. If you look at it, he can, steal pucks, stat soup like and swing the play
Yeah,
back a place.
yeah.
So yeah.
And the other player that scored 66 last year was Rantanen in 52 games. He was a +30.
Yeah.
And I mean, Colorado is a bit better defensively than Chicago and Toronto. But still, those players put up a lot of points, and they're still defensively sound. So for that reason, I'm saying Patrick Kane is a little bit overrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's a fair choice, man. But I think what people are going to say, if anybody responds, I mean, it would be the plus minus could be more of a team stat, reflect on a team more than a player. I feel like that's the argument they're
Well,
going to
yeah,
say.
it's a
But
line stat. It's to do with the line on the ice, not necessarily team, because you're always playing with usually the
yeah,
same forward line, the same defensive line.
but your argument that was really good against that would be his highest plus minus in his full career is like plus 15. So I mean, like that's not fucking amazing, right?
Yeah,
So
plus 17, and that's with Duncan Keith at his highest, Seabrook,
yeah,
Crawford. That's with a
Jomerson.
fantastic team, and it's still not as great as some of the other players I mentioned. So
Yeah, that's a good pick. But I mean, he is still one of the best to do it. But I mean,
yeah, I know.
it's a good pick for right now because that's a good argument. So I'll give you
Yeah,
that.
I'm saying he's probably one of the, I don't know, best players that I would ever put on an overrated list. Like probably
He's
at the top.
amazing.
Yeah.
It almost feels bad to have him on this list because he's just such a
Well,
good player.
like we said
He's one of
earlier,
the
it's
best.
not necessarily saying he's junk, he's garbage.
Or if
It's
you
just
like
saying
him,
that I think people give him more hype than he does. And like I said, like us as fans probably do the overrating. I think the coaches, GMs, and front offices around the league would see through that and say, this guy's not the best for,
we're the fucking
winning
problem.
hockey games, but Jesus Christ, can he ever score goals?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, let's give our picks for the most overrated defenseman in the league. Steve, I'll let you go first.
Sorry, Caleb. Seth Jones.
Oh man, Chicago's taking a beating here.
Chicago, man. Fuck, man. Yeah, the Chicago's taking it in the bum tonight, definitely.
I was gonna have him on my list too, but he was number 2 on my list too of overrated defense.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear why you think he was number 1.
We'll go over his stats. 18, 19, 75 games played, 9 goals, 37 assists, 46 points. So good year for a defenseman. Nothing wrong with that. That's points. That's not his defensive game we're talking about. 19, 20, 56 games played, 6 goals, 24 assists, 30. Oh, very respectable season. And hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, man. My mic
I don't
just
know what
closed.
happened there.
Oh, no worries. We'll just keep going. So you heard 19, 20, 20, to 21. He had 56 games played, 5 goals, 23 assists, and 28 points, but he was a minus 18. So Chicago trades for him, first round pick, and was it Boquist? And
Yeah.
another pick, I believe, went their way as well.
Oh,
They
it was
got
the
Seth
first and 2
Jones.
seconds, I believe.
Yeah, and Boquist. So
It was
that's
a
all I
lot to
priced.
give up for Seth Jones.
It was a lot to give up, and then they
Do you know
got
how
him
old he
in
is? I think he's 26
26.
too.
He is
Yeah.
26. Yeah, and
So they're getting him in his prime, but I mean, a lot to give up.
they signed him to an 8-year, $9.5 million contract
Greasy.
till he's 34 years old. Now, there's a advanced stats on favor of this man so much. I don't have all the analytics on me, but I mean, if you're listening, you want to know, just look it up on Google. You can see all the advanced stats on the guy. And basically, what I took from it when I did a little bit of research here is it shows that Columbus plays just as well defensively when he's not in the lineup compared to when he's in the lineup. He doesn't make a difference on a defensive game. Yes, he'll help. He'll throw in an assist here and there. He's pretty good at that, and he can get the puck off ice. But I know a couple guys. Who am I going to think of? Top of my head, defenseman who's good at getting the puck up ice. Travis Dermott makes like $2 million. I mean, he can get the puck up ice and he can get a few assists. He don't make $9.5 million a year.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a special quality for him to be paid that much, and I think it's actually Stan Bowman's probably one of the worst GMs in the league. Sorry, we're just absolutely
Yeah, we're just shitting on Chicago.
Hale's not gonna like this episode. But I
No,
mean,
sir.
can't you agree with me though? I mean, 8 years, 9.5 mil for a guy who's probably never going to win a Norris because he's not nearly good enough defensively to do it.
No, I told you that. I told you he was second on my list. I'd compare him to a Quinn Hughes type. He's great for offense. I mean, Quinn Hughes is even debatably better offensively than Seth
Oh,
Jones.
he's
But
got
I
more
mean,
upside.
yeah, two of them defensively. I mean, uh, I don't know. There's just not that defensive instinct in them that they were taught defense. It doesn't come naturally to them, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like when you look at all the aspects of how this went down, trade a young defenseman in Boquist. You signed him to 9.5 mil for 8 years, so he's 34. You trade away several young players in those draft picks. It's a lot to give up for a team in Chicago that's trying to get back in, even though the window's closing.
Yeah, and I like how you pointed that out because I feel like a lot of players on these lists, they aren't overrated for their play if they were paid less or the team didn't have to give up so much to get these players. I feel like they
Yeah.
wouldn't be have those high expectations. But with Jones, where he's getting paid so much and Chicago gave up so much, I feel like that doesn't help with him. Like if he has a bad season next year, imagine the flack he's going to get. Whether, I mean, compared to if he was getting paid 5 million and they only had to give up a first and a prospect or something like that instead of
There's
what they had to give up.
there's a premium on defensemen, man, and it's actually kind of insane because I've seen defensemen come from the minors and play well. I mean, um, I don't know. Um, I'm not going to compare him to a fucking third line or third pairing defenseman because it's not fair. He's obviously on the first line. He's first pairing
No,
defenseman.
he's an elite defenseman.
He
He's
is an elite defenseman,
and
but
he's a big body, but I mean that's a lot
there's
of
just
money.
too many reasons or questions when you sign a guy to 8 years at such a fucking big cap hit. I mean, like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
imagine what he must have been asking for if Stan Bowman suggested, let's just sign you to 3 years. If he got 9.5 over 8,
Yeah, I don't
he must have
understand it,
been
man.
asking for a lot of money for just to shorten that deal up. Anyway, Chicago sees something in him that we obviously don't.
No, we don't. But I mean, he's still a good defenseman. But
Hmm.
nobody, Kale McCarr, Victor Hedman are good at that price, not Seth Jones.
Yeah, no doubt.
Actually, a little thing here too. Zach Rowinski signed almost the exact same deal, did he not? A
I'm not
relatively
too
similar
sure.
deal. He signed a
He,
9 point something $1 million deal as well.
yeah,
So I
I
mean,
like Werenski though. Werenski's good defensively and offensively. I think
I
he
think
gets both
Rowinski is a
sides of the
better
puck.
defenseman. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no doubt.
um,
For sure. Yeah, like I said, Tyson Berry was second on my list, so I'll get to who was first. Or Jesus,
you
Seth
just gave
Jones
away your
was.
first.
Yeah, not a very.
Not a big
Oh
reveal.
Jesus. So yeah, I don't think I did. Geez, no even way to make a segue out of that. So Tyson Berry is my most overrated defenseman
All
in the
right.
NHL right now. I'll get into a couple of reasons why. Sorry, listeners at home, giving away that spoiler.
Is that a few
Uh,
beer?
yeah, it doesn't help. So Tyson Berry has just never been good defensively. He's always been a good offensive defenseman. He's like Quinn Hughes or Seth Jones, but I think he is just so bad defensively. And whether you're watching him, you can tell, or if you look at his stats. So I'll go over I'll go over a couple here. So in his Colorado days, which I believe were from 20, I don't know, 11 or 12 to 2019. He played 484 games. He scored 75 goals and 232 assists for 307 points. That's great from a defenseman. If you can
Oh
get a
yeah,
defenseman that, I mean, he's 180 points away from point per game. That's amazing.
yeah, that's
But the
good.
thing that I don't know makes him not a good defenseman is over those years he was negative 59, a negative
Yeah,
59 plus minus over those years.
yeah, yeah.
And um, so, like a lot of people on these lists, like for a lot of those years, he wasn't playing against the best in the world. He was playing against people's second lines or third lines, right? For a lot of those years, he wasn't first line until maybe 2016.
Mhm.
So yeah, just that negative 59 is just amazing to me. That is crazy.
Yeah.
So then he goes to Toronto for a year, and in 70 games, he gets 5 goals, and 34 assists for 39 points. I mean, not bad numbers from a defenseman.
I've seen that firsthand, man. Like, I watched all those games that year,
Yeah,
as a Leafs fan, and I was really excited for Barry to come over. And we gave away Kadri, which I wasn't too upset about at the time because his playoffs, incidences and stuff like that. So I mean, I wasn't too upset. It was nice to get somebody else on the blue line.
yeah.
And I was watching him, man, and I don't know. It's just he's always in the wrong place at the wrong time in his own zone, and it kind of
Seems
sucks
like it, yeah.
because I know he can. If he's in the right place, he makes the right play. But I find he just not in the right place. So
I feel like he has a really hard time picking up the extra man. If there's
yeah,
a 2-on-2 situation, I feel like he can't stay with that other forward, and it oftentimes turns up
yeah,
into it just has he follows the puck. He doesn't follow his
the
man, or
play,
he doesn't have
yeah,
his defensive awareness.
yeah.
So, yeah, so -7 with Toronto in 1 year. So, I mean, that's, I don't know, not what you want
That
from
was
your
a
top
playoff
pairing
team, though. I mean,
defenseman.
like, it's not like Toronto was a bad team either. I mean, they made the playoffs and they were good in the standings too. So, I mean, a lot of guys are plus on that blue line.
True.
So,
And then in Edmonton in 2020, 2021, in 56 games, he gets 8 goals and 40 assists for 48 points. Almost point per game as a defenseman. You're not gonna that's very good. And it's his first time being a positive in 7 years. And he was +4 playing with McDavid. So
that's not
despite having
much
good,
either.
yeah, I know it's only 0.4, so
Yeah.
+4.
And
So
all the
they only
points they
scored,
scored, all the
I
points
know,
they scored. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So he was only on the ice 4 times that they scored more than they let in. So despite having these good goal or point totals for a D-man, he struggles a lot on defense. Like, it's not a trait you want from your top pairing defenseman, right?
No.
And in that year in Edmonton, almost half his points came from the power play, which is kind of a red flag for me because it says
Oh,
that
yeah. He's
he
yeah.
relies on those McDavid Draisaitl assists, that third
Uh,
assist, you know,
yeah.
passing it to McDavid, and then McDavid sets up Draisaitl for him to even be a positive player or get
It,
any points. I think
it definitely
23 of his points came on the power play last year.
definitely pushed his stats up higher than what they would be if he played on a Dallas Stars or I don't know, Minnesota.
Yeah,
He
no
wouldn't be
doubt.
getting those points. So
Yeah, or if he was on a defensively minded team like New York Islanders,
yes, man, that's a
they
good
weren't
choice.
scoring
Yeah.
5 goals every game, and he didn't have those 2 or 3 third assists,
Hmm.
imagine his point totals and his plus minus. They would be horrendous.
He wouldn't be in the league.
He wouldn't be in the league. It's only because he's with Colorado, a powerhouse, Toronto, an offensive powerhouse, and Edmonton, a powerhouse offensively. He, I don't think he'd be a top
No.
pairing defenseman. He'd be a third pairing maybe if he was playing on a defensively minded
And
team,
and
and he
there's a
wasn't getting those
reason
points.
there's a reason he plays on those teams because those general managers know that, and
Exactly.
you're not gonna get Lou trading fucking a first round pick for Tyson Berry to drop over
God
and
no.
get him on his fucking 28. There's a reason he's on those teams that are offensively inclined because he
He can get
plays.
the deep.
Yeah,
He can get the offense going. He's a great first pass,
yeah.
and he's great quarterback and power play, especially when you got McDavid and Draisaitl. So I don't think he leaves Edmonton, because if he leaves Edmonton, like, uh, I would feel bad for the guy.
So
I would probably
basically,
e-transfer him $5.
yeah, basically, any Minnesota fans or New York Islanders fans here, if you really like Tyson Berry, there's a chance you're not going to see him in that jersey anytime soon.
Yeah, very good. Yeah,
Very
well,
good
that's
points.
yeah, those are two very overrated defensemen. I would agree with
Yeah,
your pick, and I hope you agree
yeah,
with
man.
mine.
I do. I think that's two good picks. I think that's solid.
Yeah. So finally, we're going to talk about the most overrated goalie in the NHL. Take it away, Steve. Who you got?
Oh man, jeez, I'm just picking fun on teams that people are gonna think I'm very biased, man, towards the Leafs. But I got Jake Allen there
Okay.
actually from
All right.
Montreal, and I struggled to find an overrated goalie because I think if you're a goalie in the league, to a certain extent, I mean, there's only so many goalies in the league. You can't be that overrated. I don't know. I found it very hard to pick a goalie who was overrated. Anyways,
So
is
did
what I'm
I.
trying to
I had
say.
to. I had to do some digging as well.
Yeah, and I looked around and I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, back a few weeks ago when Seattle was drafting their team, there was a big stir up about Carey Price waiving his no move clause so they could keep Jake Allen. I thought to myself, well, hold on, Jake Allen is fucking Jake Allen. He's not fucking Vasilevsky. Let me look into him a bit, and I found out that he's a good backup goalie. Sometimes, not all the
Okay.
time. And I'll read out some stats now to back up my point. And all right, 18-19. He played 46 games. He had 19 wins, 17 losses, and 8 overtime losses. He's 2 games above his losses, and he has 8 overtime losses. So I mean,
Oh, those hurt.
it's not great. He played 46 games, so he's kind of like a tandem situation that year.
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
that's the year before Bennington came, or was it the year Bennington came? I'm not sure. I
I
think that was the
mean,
year Bennington came.
yeah, and it would make sense if Jake Allen was the starter, and then in February he came in Bennington anyway and just stole
Yeah.
the show.
So, anyways, he had a 2.83 goals against average and a 905 save percentage. Those aren't great numbers by no means. He did play a lot of games, but just because he played a lot of games doesn't mean he had great numbers.
Yeah. Before you go any further, I think around the league, just a .920 save percentage is considered elite. If you can steadily keep a .920,
Yeah,
um, I think that would. Anyway, yeah.
yeah,
So anything under that, I consider not elite and not bad. Anything over 900 though in the NHL, you're a pretty good goalie. But
yeah. But if you're sitting anywhere from 909, we'll say down, you're not having an amazing year. You're just stopping
no,
pucks. You're not stopping anything more than you have to, basically.
exactly. Yeah.
So, anyways, we'll move on. 1920, he played 24 games. Uh, was 1920? I didn't have it wrote down. Is that when he went to Montreal for? Uh, I think so.
That could have
No,
been.
it's
Yeah.
not. No, it's not. I don't
No.
think so. Is it? Anyways, that's not my point. 24
Well,
games
if he had
played.
24 games, it would make sense in either team because I mean Bennington or Carey Price would have played the majority of the games.
Yeah. Well,
Actually, I don't think it was. He was definitely in St. Louis then, I think,
yeah, I
because
think it was St.
he would
Louis.
not have played that many games with Carey Price if
No,
Carey Price was healthy.
especially in a
Anyway,
56 game season or whatever. No, that wasn't
exactly.
56. It was around 62, I think, when the COVID stuff came on to go. Anyways, that doesn't matter. We'll skip that. 12
Yep.
wins, 6 losses, 3 overtime losses. He's 6 above his losses. So I mean, that's a pretty good year. I mean, 12-6-3 is not bad. I mean, it's a really respectable year. 215 goals against average. So I mean, that's a lot better than the 283. And he had a 927 save percentage. So he had a very solid year that year. So I mean, I'm probably sure they were thinking, well, we got a pretty good goalie here when Montreal
Mm-hmm.
signed him.
Yep.
Comes into Montreal 2021. He plays 29 games. He's 11, 12, and 5.
Oh,
So he lost one more than what he won. 2.68 goals against average and a 907 save percentage. So he dropped back down to that 18-19 year, basically. I think he's a good backup at times, and other times I think he's not. And I don't know why Canadians fans are drooling over this guy. I don't know. I feel like Caden Primo is probably going to be a better goalie than him very soon. And
yeah. I
um,
think they're just waiting for Primo to come onto his own.
And it's not like you can't go out and get a backup in the off season for a fucking 2 or 3 mil and sign him for a couple of years, and he'll put up just as good numbers. So the fact that they were always talking about Jake Allen in Montreal, I mean, like, it's Jake Allen, man. You don't have like a superstar there. You got Carey Price, he's your guy. It's just stop talking about Jake Allen. He doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I
but
wouldn't have
I
thought of
think
it,
he's
but
overrated.
yeah, and I mean you're right because you know how I know because I never even looked into him. I always just took the word like a lot of people think Jake Allen's good. I bought into the hype. I didn't look at his stats when we were
Yeah, I mean, he's not
preparing
that
for this
good.
video at
He's
all.
not that good, man. Like, fuck, man. I think I'd almost if you had Michael Hutchison in that, I mean, what's the big difference? Nah, wait, that
Yeah.
might be a stretch,
Uh,
but I don't
you
know.
know
I just
what?
don't see the hype.
You know what? I bought into the hype because I'm biased too because he used to play for the Fog Devils. Did you know that?
No, I never.
He used to play for the Fog Devils and my he came to one of my buddy's school once and came there with his woman. And apparently he had a fucking rocket of a missus back in the day
Oh,
when he was playing
jeez,
for
man.
Fog Devils. Imagine.
Oh yeah, well, definitely, man. I
So
mean,
I was biased. So I didn't even look into him at all. I
yeah, I think
if
he's a
you
bit
told me
overrated.
he
That's
was
my
your
opinion.
underrated goalie, I would have been like, fine by me, boy. Tell me
Yeah,
some stats. But no, those stats are definitely compelling because those aren't great stats. especially if you're
Not
playing in a
amazing.
backup role. Like his role is to give Carey Price a break or
And when
Jordan
he's
Binnington a break, and just like get a couple wins. But
and when he's giving him a break, he's not really giving him much of a break. He's making their
yeah,
job
I
more
knew he
difficult.
wasn't a great starter,
Hmm.
but I thought he was a good backup.
Yeah, so
And I mean, he's probably playing against the weaker teams in the league too.
Yeah, well,
he's
I
in a
mean, they're going to
backup
start
role.
him. They're going to start him against, the teams at New Jersey or,
Yeah, they're not starting him against Colorado, or I guess in
no,
the they were starting him last year against like Ottawa, Vancouver, Calgary. They weren't starting him against Edmonton or Toronto.
no, man, because you look at that stuff and you're like, what gives us a better chance to win, and what days can we give Carey a break? So it kind of
Exactly.
lines up that way. And those aren't great numbers, man. So I just think everybody needs to jump off the Jake Allen hype train because he's a good goalie, but why are you talking about him any more than like Boston's backup goalie? Like he doesn't matter anymore. Then I'm just basically just ruining this guy's fucking parade.
Yeah, holy shit, this guy might go into a little depression after listening to the Hockey Tank podcast.
Yeah, he's like, man, these boys really hates me, man. Why do they hate me so much? I don't hate him, man. I just
no,
don't.
I think it's pretty even. You said he's shit and it's the worst goalie in the league, and I'm saying he's got a rocket of a misses. So
you got to pick on somebody.
It's balancing out here pretty good, honestly. He's getting some compliments and then just getting we're down to shreds. So.
Yeah. So.
I'm not gonna do my overrated goalie any favors too, and one of the reasons I'm wearing all the getup is because my pick is Frederick Anderson. My pick is Freddie Anderson. So I'll run through some quick stats with you here. So in 1920, he played 52 games, had 29 wins, 13 losses. So I mean, that's really good. He's winning like double the games that he's losing. His shots against was 1,577 with a save percentage of .909. That's really good. And I'll let you kind of just think about that last couple numbers I gave out, just the 1,577 shots against, and how he did so good. And then in 2020-21, he only played 24 games, 13 wins and 8 losses, which I mean is still pretty good. He's still winning more than he's losing, but he only faced 668 shots last year, and he had a .895 save percentage. To me, there's a goalie that definitely benefits from playing behind a bad defensively team, like in Anaheim when he was there before Toronto. He was facing on average more than 2,000 shots per year. That's a lot of shots in a season. So just bringing a little math into the show here, if I'm allowed to do that.
Yeah, man.
Is the more shots you take, the higher your save percentage is going to be. See, if a goalie gets 100 shots a game, and I mean, even if he lets in, I'm not a math guy, but 20 goals, that's still a 80% save percentage.
Yeah.
Even though he let in 20 goals, just because he had a higher number of shots. So for that reason, it seems like he does really benefit off of getting a lot of shots, and he does seem shaky. And I mean, honestly, I don't want to point a finger at anyone, but I'm kind of blaming EA Sports for this, where they're just so Toronto biased. They made his overalls like always like 87, 88 overall. And I mean, when he clearly didn't deserve it, he was just a Toronto goalie. So, I mean, he was a good goalie for a couple of years, but in the last few years, he fell off to me, especially last year, seeing that.
Like, that was a tough year.
When he doesn't face a lot of shots, his save percentage plummets.
And you know what? You're exactly right, man, because I've watched a lot of Toronto games. I watch every Toronto game every year. And, when you're watching the Toronto game and Toronto's got possession for fucking like 3 or 4 minutes, and like and when they come back down to Toronto zone, it's like puck around the boards, rim it around the boards is out, and then they got possession for another 3 or 4 minutes of the period. And you're looking there, and I'm thinking to myself, well, Freddie hasn't got a shot in 8 minutes, so I mean, when they come down, they're gonna fucking score. He's that type of goalie where if the defense is worse, he's playing better because he's getting more of those shots and he's in the zone. Yeah. But as Toronto became better, he got worse. And
Yeah.
when he first came to Toronto, defense was a bit worse. They had, excuse me, burping a bit. They had Roman Polak, Matt Marinson. I mean, like, these are guys that shouldn't even be eligible for beer league. They're that fucking garbage. I mean, they got no teeth in their mouth. They're the ugliest looking things I've ever graced the earth. So I don't know. It's just he's just that type of goalie. He needs to be in the zone more or less. And if you got him
Yeah.
sitting back there, he's the time when they come down and shoot, he's just gonna mess up, and that's just the way it is, unfortunately. And so that's the reason why I had Carolina down as well in my standings, because I looked and they had Freddie and who was the other one, Ranta.
Yep.
And I was thinking to myself, like, Carolina is one of the best defensive teams in the league. Anderson would be better on Buffalo
Yeah.
for that
Probably.
reason. Like what
Yeah,
we're
you're
saying.
right. You know what? I didn't think about this when I was putting together our division rankings. You're right.
So I did because I'm a Leafs fan. I knew he moved there, but I
Yeah.
completely agree with you 100%, and I think that's a really good choice. And it sucks because he can be a good goalie, but if he doesn't get the shots, he's not going to be. So
Yeah.
that's my
That's right.
point of view.
Yeah, and some goalies are like that. Like Freddie Anderson benefits off of lots of shot, got to stay hot. And then you look at Grubauer, and he was one of the best goalies. And I mean, some games he was only facing 20 shots a
Yeah,
game. And I think he had the record last year for the most shutouts around the league. So,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely right.
that's a good
Anyway,
pick.
but yeah, you too, buddy. Let's get into some underrated players. I like this a lot more because I like building people up more than shitting on them. Even though I
Yeah,
don't mind
definitely.
shitting on a
No,
couple
I mean,
people.
you said in the first episode you wanted to start this podcast so you could talk about the shit on the internet. So
Yeah, I mean, I meant to shoot the shit, but I do enjoy talking a bit of shit as well. So, all right. So, yeah, let's get into our underrated players. So, these players are often underrated just because they fly under the radar because they're overshadowed by superstars on their team, or they're not paid enough money, or just they bring some intangibles that aren't recorded on the scoreboard. So they kind of, fly under the radar. Let's start with forwards again, Steve. I'll let you start us off on this one.
all right. This is a guy I love. He's one of my favorite players in the league, and it doesn't make any sense why, when we talk about the best players in the game right now, we talk about McKinnon, we talk about McDavid, we talk about Matthews, Kucherov, just the best players in the game to everybody. I think we're missing somebody. I think that's Braden Point. The dude's been the first line center for 2 cups. He surpassed Stamkos on that team, the captain, Stamkos, the guy who scores 50 or 60 goals, used to, a season. He comes in, he takes over that. He was a 3rd-round draft pick. So, I mean, he wasn't like a highly touted prospect. I mean, the dude's worked for everything he got. It's not like he went into Arizona where there was no center depth and he just kind of got offered a job. He worked, man. He worked for everything he got.
That was a hard team to make too.
Yeah, it's hard to make, and he made it, and then eventually he became better than everybody else, in my opinion. I think he's the best player in that team besides Hedman. I do. I really think he's the best player.
Yeah,
I think
maybe
he's better than Kucherov. I do. I
that's a
have.
hot one. That's a
He's
spicy little pick there, my buddy.
he's he's good defensively, man. He's good
Yeah, he is.
defensively,
I think
and
so
he's
too.
good offensively, and
And I think that's the reason probably he passed Stamkos, because Stamkos is all offense, Kucherov
yeah,
all offense. They needed someone
yeah.
to kind of balance that line out.
And I think if you don't have Braden Point on that team, I don't think you win 2 Stanley Cups. I don't think you win 1 Stanley Cup, because you need that guy, like similar to Ron O'Reilly. Teams who won cups recent years, they got that centerman that they can trust, man, to be in any
Huge fucking
situation.
playoff player,
Yeah,
massive playoff player.
you need the centerman when you're on playoff runs that you can trust to play in any situation. Ron O'Reilly, Braden Point, Backstrom with Washington, he can play in any situation, man. Crosby, I mean, Taves was a guy when Chicago was winning. Kopitar when LA was winning. I mean, you
Yeah,
got to have that centerman on
absolutely
that,
right. Yeah,
so and Braden Point was that for Tampa. It wasn't Stamkos. It wasn't Kucherov.
Stamkos was injured a lot the first cup they won, or was it the second
Yeah,
one?
it was the first one. Yeah.
Yeah,
And anyways, we'll get to some stats here. I got a couple cool stats. 18-19, he played 79 games played, 41 goals, 51 assists, 92 points. The dude puts up 92 points in 79 games.
yeah,
That's elite. He could have won an award that year.
you're right.
He never,
Yeah,
but he could have.
Yeah,
and
he's not in the talks when we talk about
he's
the
not in. No
best
man,
players,
he's
but yeah, 90
and it
point season's
sucks.
nothing to shake a stick at. You're right.
No man. 1920, he had a 66 games played, 25 goals, 39 assists for 64 points, 2 points under a point per game. Still amazing player. Like, even to be in the realm of point per game, I mean, it's just shows how good of a hockey player you are. We go into 2021, 56 games played, 23 goals, 25 assists, 48 points. So he's a nice bit below point per game, but he had a long playoff run the year before they won the
Yeah, he
cup.
did.
And it was a short off season, and they were probably like, celebrating, drinking and stuff. So he didn't have much time to get back into game shape, probably, right? So I mean, I think that interfered with his point total, so I wouldn't look too much into that. And this cool fact I
But
want
I
to tell
mean,
you
it doesn't
here.
matter what you do in the regular season. They
Now he's a
won it
playoff
again,
guy,
man.
and
Yeah,
he's a big reason for that, right?
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
this cool fact I found online, actually, when I was doing a bit of research on the guy, because I wanted to have a little bit of a research behind me when I talked about it. I found a tweet NHL made. It was centers to record 12 plus goals in consecutive Stanley Cup playoffs in NHL history. Wayne Gretzky, 84-85. Lemieux, 91-92. Braden Point, 20-21.
And that's the
And
only ones.
and actually, he surpassed Wayne Gretzky and Mario Lemieux because he had 13 plus goal playoff runs consecutive years.
Unreal.
And he passed Mario Lemieux and Gretzky for that. And there's no other players in NHL history to do that. So, that tells a lot about the guy. And when it was when Lemieux was playing and Gretzky were playing, you talked about them every year for awards. Why aren't we talking about this guy? He completely deserves it, man. I think he's gonna
Yeah,
win an award. I think maybe in a year or two, he could win a Hart. He could win something like that. And he
I
deserves
hope
it, man.
so.
He's
I'd
got two
love to
cups.
see it. And I think that's a case where he's just overshadowed by how many superstars they have on that team.
Yeah, and it sucks because he's a really good player, and he could have won Conn Smythe either of those years they won the cup. I think if they
Yeah.
won it last year or this year, I don't think people would argue too much about Braden Point winning the Conn Smythe. I
I
wouldn't have.
think the first year, especially, I was saying it's definitely either Braden Point
Insane point totals. He
or
he didn't have
Victor Hedman.
he didn't have as many points this year, but he still was a point per game.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's insane what he's doing, and it's not insane what he's doing. It is insane, but it's the moral of the story is that he's not being talked about enough for what he is achieving in the league. So
Yeah.
it
I mean,
sucks.
like you said, just being a third
Yeah,
round pick and having to not get those reps because as if you're a first rounder, you're going to training camp, but he was probably overlooked in training camp and just said,
yeah,
fucking third rounder, get back to juniors, have another good year for yourself, and we'll see you next year. So
yeah.
he worked his ass off probably to even get to training camp, then had to beat out, just
And
some
then he's got to
bigger, better
work.
players.
Then he's got
And
to work
just
his way up Tampa Bay lineup, which is not easy to do.
yeah, and you know what? I can't remember ever hearing about him on the fourth, third line. He's as soon as he came into Tampa, it seemed like he was ready to go.
Yeah, he's a good player, man, and it sucks because he's not talked about enough. Definitely. So
I
that's my
think you're
four.
right though. In the coming years, we're gonna start looking at him like a top 10 player, I think.
Yeah, and he's probably a top 10 player, honestly, or he's top 12 because he's right there with him. He makes 9 mil a year now.
Yeah,
He's good.
deservingly.
Yeah,
Yeah, great pick, man. Um,
thank you.
yeah. I think my pick would have to be Nick Backstrom from the Washington
Yeah, and he's
Capitals.
always been underrated ever since he
Oh, his
came in the
whole
league.
career,
It's
man.
criminal. It's
I was
criminal.
looking at his stats. I'm gonna get to it later. Like unbelievable.
Yeah.
How this guy is still flying under the radar.
I
Um,
don't understand it, man. The dude's like one of the best Swedes to ever play behind Sundin and Forsberg and Lidstrom, right?
yeah. So yeah, for my money, the best playmaker in the league for the last decade or more,
Oh
since
yeah.
I don't know 2009, 2010, probably the best for my money. And I know a lot of people are gonna say like, oh, he just passes to Ovi and Ovi does all the work, and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and that's a sin because
Yeah.
last year, um, he played 15 games. He had 15 goals, 38 assists for 53 points. And a lot of that season, Kuznetsov was on the first line, meaning he played second and third line time.
Yeah.
And he still put up 38 assists, even without getting the top minutes. I mean, he was still on the power play, but I think he only scored like uh 15 or 20 of those points on the power play this year, which is just insane playing like second line and
Mhm.
and just being as defensively responsible as he is. The same thing we were talking about with Kane playing with Tays. Like you need that defensive guy, or Point playing with Kucherov to kind of balance it out. Backstrom has been that right hand man to Ovi
Forever.
throughout his whole career.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna read out some stats. So as of today, Backstrom has 5 60 assist seasons.
Unbelievable.
That's
5.
300 assists right there,
Yeah.
just in 5 seasons. So he has 5 60 assist seasons, 4 50 assist seasons, 3 40 assist seasons, and has never scored less than 30 assists in a season. For these unreal stats, I don't think he gets the recognition he deserves, and he never has. Imagine those stats. So in 12 years, like that he's played, or even more than that, actually, he's played more than 12. He's never got less than 30 assists. And that's not even talking about his goals. He chips in, 15, 20, 30 goals
A year.
in his year, somewhere in that range. So I mean, he's probably the most underrated player that I've seen in my lifetime. I know there's probably a lot of guys.
You know what's written all over that? Hall of Fame. This dude's Hall of Fame.
Hall of
And
Fame
nobody
career,
talks about
no
him.
doubt. No doubt.
I remember
He's
being
got
a
cup.
kid and talking about this guy, saying
Yeah.
saying he's underrated. Hall of Famer, man. He's been so good for so long. He doesn't have off years, man. Every year he brings it. He's always in shape, man. He's
Yep.
ready to go every year. And he's consistent, man. He's a leader. If Ovi wasn't there, he'd have been the captain long ago.
Oh, yeah.
It's just unbelievable that you bring that up, because I thought about him actually, but I figured that was too easy. And it actually sucks for me to say that, because I'm not even bringing him up my underrated list, just how much we don't talk about him.
Exactly. I couldn't not put him here. I hate to do it because it's such an easy pick, but I just felt like our
we
few
don't
and
talk
loyal
about him in any
listeners
situation.
need to hear those stats. I mean, it's
He's a
unreal
Hall
how
of
many
Famer,
assists
man.
he gets. Oh yeah, 100%.
Man.
Yeah,
It's
I think him and Ovi should get it inducted together, because that's a sick 1-2 punch, and it's one of the most iconic duos in the last 12 or 14 years we've seen in the league. Patty Marleau, Thornton, that kind of duo is what we're talking here.
Does the guy even go to All-Star games, man? Does he even get an invite?
Yeah, you're right. I think they can only pick a player from each team, and I think it's usually Ovi that goes.
There's certain years though they take two. So I feel like he's been in the All-Star game, but there's no way he's been in. No way he's been in there enough for a guy who gets 60 assists a year. I mean, he should be there every year, locked down, solid. Like,
it might be the same thing as Crosby, though. He might just be turning it down, because I know Crosby did that for a lot of years. He didn't want to go to the All-Star game.
Yeah. Well, look at it like this, man. They invited Leo Komarov one year. If Backstrom wasn't invited, man, they should be putting fucking Gary Bettman in jail or whoever.
Yeah, I heard actually Backstrom backed out one year because John Scott said he was going to beat the wheels off him if he showed up to that All-Star game.
Nice fellow.
Yeah, no. Anyway, now to defenseman. I think we've got our forwards, and yeah, I like that pickup rating point. I think
I like the pick of Backstrom too. Yeah, those were two really good picks.
Little virtual high five I'll send over to Corner Brook.
Yes, man.
I'll send it via email, maybe. So anyway, yeah, on the defenseman. So which D-man do you think never gets the praise that they deserve?
Well, I think I picked a guy who's just starting to not get the praise he deserves. He's just coming to be one of the best players, not the best players, but one of the really good players in the league. I got the Arizona Coyotes, Jacob Chicherin.
I think that's how you say it. I like it. Tell us why.
Well, I'll go over the stats. In 18-19, he played 53 games, 5 goals, 15 assists, 20 points in 53 games. I mean, that's good for a defenseman. 19-20, 63 games played, 12 goals, 14 assists, 26 points. Slow rise, but he's rising. 20-21, 56 games played, 18 goals, 23 assists, 41 points, 56 games last year on an Arizona team. It was
amazing last year.
Dirt on a dirt team.
Yeah.
Arizona is like every year, man, there's something on to go in Arizona. It's like, oh man, we're starting another rebuild now just as well. Like it's unbelievable how they're so bad for so long, and
I know. Tell me about it.
They still find players to come up.
They're on the come up. They get Keller and Chikrin
and
all these players. They're finally starting to gel, and then they just tear it all down again.
And let's
Chikrin's
tear it
been,
down again. Let's tear
I
it
mean,
down.
he's going to be the backbone of that team. He's going to be the one thing they can look at their lineup and say, "Yep, he's consistent forever." You know, you look at Hot Dog
Yeah.
Phil Kessel. You're saying, "Oh, he had an off year." You look at Clayton Keller, the rookie comes in,
Yeah.
has a 65-point season, and then drops off. You're like,
Yeah.
fuck. And then you look at
Yeah.
Chikrin, and I mean, he's been the strong point of that team. He's been a backbone there. So I think you're right.
And he will be forever, man. He was the best defenseman on the team last year. He's
You
better
think he
than the
gets a
captain.
C now that OEL's
I
gone?
think he does, and I think it shouldn't even be a debate of who gets a C. He's a really good two-way defenseman. He's not outstanding in offensively or defensively. There's no one area that he really strives at better than the other, but he's just a good all-around two-way defenseman, man. They drafted him in the first round. He's fucking Canadian, good old Canadian kid, I think. So
Good old Canadian boy. He's from the WHL. He played out west, didn't he?
I think so, man.
I think
Anyways,
so.
he was from Canada, so I mean, you can't go wrong. I mean, the guy plays a solid game, and he's not making mistakes. He's getting the puck up ice, and I don't know. You need him. You need a guy like that in every blue line, and for him to get 41 points in 56 games last year is just a start. I think because I mean, I could sit here and say, well, Arizona's only going to get better because they can't get much worse, but I don't really believe that because I feel like when they get better in 3 or 4 years, they're going to be like, well, rebuild. We'll start again.
Imagine they do that. Holy fuck. I think every Coyotes fan would just say,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
where's the
it.
next closest team? We can't
Yeah.
do this. This is fucked.
I don't even know if Arizona stays in Arizona because of all this
Arizona's going to be the
arena
worst
stuff.
team in the league this year. I'm going to say that every podcast.
What about Buffalo?
Buffalo is going to be better than Arizona. But Chicken is still going to be,
He's
their golden boy, I think.
Yeah, and he's a really good young player, man. He's not that old. I believe he's like 24 or something like that. 20. He's early 20s, man. He's got a lot
Drafted
of
in
time.
2016, wasn't he? Or that was his rookie
Yeah.
year. So maybe he was drafted before
Yeah.
2015 or something.
Yeah. So he's got a lot of time to get better too. And I mean, I don't know. I just there's something about him that screams like one Norris. One Norris. Not like a Norris every year, but like give him that year where he gets Norris and maybe he builds himself a solid like potential Hall of Fame career. He's not going to do it in the desert, so he better get his trade request in. But
anywhere else he played, he wouldn't be as underrated as he is if he played in, an original six market or a Canadian team.
Imagine if this dude played in Toronto, 41 points, 56 games as like a 23, 24-year-old defenseman.
Probably would have won the Norris because he would have had more press, more people talking.
There'd be fucking Chikrin. They'd be raising the Chikrin jersey to the rafters already. That's how something they'd be.
No, man, they'd be saying he was shit. This guy's fucking shit. He didn't even get point per game. Trade him, Dubas. That's what they'd be saying over in Toronto.
Yeah, but all the same though, to make a point to not shit on Arizona. I mean, John Chayka did absolutely fuck that group when he lost all the first round picks. So they kind of didn't have much of a choice, especially when Hall wouldn't sign, and everything's been shit there since. But great defenseman, and he's my choice.
Great pick. Yeah, he is definitely underrated. My guy here is Charlie McAvoy, and I know he does get a lot of praise because he is in that big market and the top defenseman on that team. But he's just an unreal demon that doesn't really chip on a whole lot of offense, but still, actually, no, he still gets a nice bit of assists in that. But the reason I think he's underrated is just how good 5-on-5 he is and how good defensively he is. So in his he's played 4 years in Boston. And in those 4 years, he's played 235 games. He's got 24 goals, 98 assists for 122 points. That's almost half a point per game, which isn't bad for a defenseman, especially when you got a plus 80 in those years. So, I mean, on average, he's getting
plus 80.
Yeah. So that's on average plus 20 every year.
That's like amazing.
Yeah. And a stat that jumped out on me too is his power play points in those 4 years is only 19.
That's not much.
Imagine how great this guy is 5-on-5 for. He's got 122 points. So more than 100 points in those 4 years has come 5-on-5. He doesn't rely on power play points to, pad his stats. This guy is fantastic point producer 5-on-5, and he's a great defenseman too.
He's not a Tyson Berry.
No, not by a long shot, buddy. Not by a fucking long shot. The reason I think this guy's overrated is yes, he gets a lot of praise, but he's
Underrated.
never. Yeah, Jesus, sorry, buddy. He's never talked as like a top 10 defenseman in the league. You got your Victor Hedmans and Cale Makars, and even Quinn Hughes sometimes sneaks on that list he's and when he's not that great of D-man. I think a guy like Charlie McAvoy deserves a spot in those lists over a lot of players that sneak on there.
He's making his way up there.
Oh,
He is making
100%.
his way up there.
I think he should be top 7 in the league.
Yeah,
he's proved it for 4 years now. He's very consistent. On average, I think he gets about 30 points a year from a defenseman. So he's defensively sound and offensively consistent, and that's why I think he's one of the best defensemen in the game, and just doesn't get the respect he deserves.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. Those are all good points. To have that plus minus the way it is, I mean, the dude doesn't make many mistakes.
He's never been a minus in his career. He's always been on average like plus 20, and for I think 2 or 3 of those years, he was on the top pairing. So he's always playing against the best players in the league. He's always playing against people in his divisions.
I mean, he had to step up, man, because Boston lost a few pieces over the last few years.
The Chara crew, they lost those really good defensive players, and they needed McAvoy to step in and fill that role.
Well, I wouldn't say Krug is a.
I wouldn't say Krug either, player.
But I mean, they did lose players. They lost. There were some pieces on that blue line that they've lost, and somebody had to step up. And he did that, and he's definitely making a name for himself. And he's one of those players, kind of like Chicherin. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah,
he could win. He's not going to be a guy like Makar. I think Makar could probably got 2 or 3 Norrises in him, man. That's how good he is. But he's one of those guys who could sneak a Norris in before he retires and have a potential Hall of Fame career.
I think so too. I mean, if Boston pops off, it's just not the point total's not there. Like I said, he only gets 30 points a year.
Yeah, but it's they shouldn't look at it like that for defensemen. I mean, if he gets 30 points a year, he's a plus 40. I mean, he's an amazing player, so it shouldn't be judged on point totals when it comes to defensemen. So
that's right.
I don't think that's very fair. I think he's a great defenseman too.
All right, I like your pick, and I like my pick.
Yeah, those are some solid underrated picks.
Yeah, my pick's on the line. I like your pick because he's not even close to a top 10 nomination, whereas McAvoy is. But yeah, I just think he should be higher on that list, and that was my reason. But anyway, let's take it to the crease, Steve. Who's the most underrated tendy in the league right now, in your opinion?
I was waiting for this. Minnesota, Cam Talbot.
All right.
This guy is a fucking beauty, man.
Let's hear about it. Let's fucking hear about it. I wouldn't have picked this guy.
No, nobody would have. Nobody would have.
That's how underrated he is.
Nobody watches Minnesota, right? So Minnesota, Cam Talbot, man. This guy is a fucking all-star. Should have been an all-star game if they had one. I want to say he's been in the NHL a long time. He's bounced around a bit. New York Islanders. Not New York Islanders, New York Rangers, Oilers, Philly, Calgary, now Minnesota. So the dude's been around. The dude's had to change his postal code a few times. There's no fucking doubts about that. So I wouldn't want to this guy must hate fucking getting mails. Every year he's got to fuck around changing all his bills. And,
he's got to tell his neighbors fuck, look out for my mailbox. She's probably overfilled because I'm fucking in a different state.
Yeah, so poor guy when it comes to that. But there was a year, I don't have it wrote down. I'm gonna go off the top of my head and say it was 16.
That's all right, buddy. That's what we do. We don't spit facts here. We say shit and hope it's right. Let's hear it.
Yeah, basically, I think it was 16, 17. He had 42 wins with the Oilers, and that's when he was in conversation of this guy's really fucking good. Then it goes from, I'm going to read this out now. His last year in Edmonton, he played 31 games, 10 wins, 15 losses, 3 overtime losses, 3.36 goals against average, and an .893 save percentage. Absolutely horrendous numbers.
Yep, dog shit.
Excuse me. He got traded to Philly, and he played 4 games in Philly, 1 win, 2 losses, 1 overtime loss, 370 goals against average, and an .881. He was even worse in Philly, believe it or not.
That's fucked. Almost 4 goals per game in 4 games. That's rough.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And he was considered to be a starting goalie at one point, And it kind of lasted, and he was kind of in the territory of like, is this dude even an NHL goalie anymore for a couple of years? And it was kind of shitty because I always liked Cam Talbot. I always thought he was a pretty good goalie. And 1920 rolls around. He signs in the offseason with Calgary on a 1-year deal. He plays 26 games, 12 wins, 10 losses, 1 overtime loss, 2.63 goals against, and a 919 save percentage. So he's getting back to those good numbers. Like
Yeah, like
he
we
had
were
a
saying
pretty good
earlier, that's
year.
almost elite.
Yeah, I mean those are good numbers. I mean, he did only win 2 more games than what he lost, but at the same time, Calgary was no powerhouse.
Yeah.
So he had pretty decent numbers in a 1-year deal with Calgary. So that was good for him to get his career back on track. Then the mastermind himself, Bill Guerin, comes out. Oh, here's the cat.
Hey,
So,
Magic. Get up in that window, girl. Go look at the crackheads.
what was I saying? He comes in Calgary on a 1-year deal, and he plays well, man, and he deserves another NHL role. And the genius Bill Guerin himself says we're going to bring this guy in as a new starter because Devin Dubnik's gone, so we need a guy who's going to be a fucking absolute stud. And what did he do? Bill Guerin doesn't make mistakes. He signed him. He came in. He played fucking amazing. 19 wins, 8 losses, 5 overtime losses in 33 games. Hit a 915 save percentage and a 2.63 goals against average. 33 games of 56 game schedule. That's like majority of the games. That's pretty
Oh
good.
yeah,
He was injured for a while
way over
too,
half.
so he was injured for a while too. So when he wasn't injured, he was playing a lot. And man, he had a really good year, and I was blown away watching him. Man, he made those saves you didn't think he could make, and he wasn't brought up once in anything. I don't necessarily think he had a Vezina year, so I understand why he wasn't brought up. But I felt like he had a few bad years, and everybody kind of just wrote him off, and
Yeah.
I don't know. It's too quick. He came back and he's having some good years now, and I wouldn't be surprised if he has an even better year this year. Because Minnesota is that type of team too, really good defensively. They don't give up much,
Mhm.
and what they do give up, she's fucking gone insane. What they do give up, he ends up making that save. So
Yeah.
I found it kind of hard to find an underrated goalie too. I don't know why. I just found this list hard to make, and
Goalies are hard to judge, man,
yeah,
because
that's
a
what I'm
lot of
saying.
people will write off goalies, and I'm sitting here like, why are you calling this goalie shit? And then I'll look at the advanced stats, and it's like, oh fuck, this goalie is shit. And
Yeah.
then a lot of people was like, this goalie's best in the world, or like the best backup goalie in the league. And then the guy loses like fucking 6 more
Yeah.
games than he won. It's like, what the
Yeah.
fuck are you guys talking about? So
So
yeah, goalies
that's my
definitely
pick,
hard.
man.
Yeah, I just want to slow the show down a bit to remind our listeners at home how passionate that was. You're really making a case for Cam Talbot, aren't you?
Yeah, man. And I'm sorry because I want to apologize, man, because the cat was like going insane and confusing me. And I was kind of just rambling, absolutely rambling fucking garbage. I was talking about like his wife and his postal code, and like I never
Yeah.
talked about his wife. I'm thinking about his wife or something. Anyways, dude.
Mrs. Calvert. No, so for
Yeah.
our listeners, yeah, if you just want to go back a couple minutes and put the show on like half speed or something so you can actually listen.
I was
Uh,
absolutely going, so I'm sorry about that. I don't know. I'm very passionate about the man. I think he's
no,
a
we
great
can tell.
goaltender. So we're gonna slow this down a bit now and take it out of the
As
intense
Adam
place I
Sandler
put
would
it at.
say, we're gonna take it at a medium pace.
Yeah, definitely. I went too crazy there. I got a little bit too excited, so I got to calm
I
my
got into
nerves
it
and
though. That was
get
like
even
cocaine
keel.
for me. I was like, yeah, go,
I
go,
was going, man. I don't know, man. I just read that name on my paper and I was just like, Cam fucking Talbot,
As
Minnesota.
soon as I asked you who your underrated goalie was, you were like, I've been waiting fucking years for this, buddy. Let me go.
So, and a
Great
more
pick.
even
Yeah, a lot
keeled
of
note,
people.
good
Oh,
goalie.
sorry.
No man, good goalie. Probably not going to win a Vezina, but you know, I'll definitely get a Cam Talbot poster to put up my room if my girlfriend doesn't tear it down.
Let's go. Yeah, he's
So
definitely one of the goalies that doesn't have the name recognition. Like you're talking about the best goalies, and if someone says Cam Talbot, like you take a double take, you're like, what the fuck did you just
who
say?
the fuck is Cam Talbot, man?
Yeah,
But
it's
he's
like
a starter. He's not elite, we'll say, but. I just was like looking at this list. I'm like, where can I put a guy from Minnesota in here? I got to gas
yeah,
somebody up, and he's perfect spot. So, good starter. That's my pick. And
for
like
sure,
I
and
said, I'm
definitely
gonna slow down.
underrated.
Yeah.
So yeah, great pick, my pick here, and this is a spicy little nugget, and I feel like a lot of people are just gonna shit on me for it, but I think Tristan Jarry from the Pittsburgh Penguins is a little underrated.
Yeah, man, I
Um,
think that's a great choice because he was actually second on my list. Second.
nice.
Yeah.
Cam Talbot was 50th on my list.
You're just like the rest of them. You
Yeah,
don't
just
believe
like
in
the
the
rest
man.
of them. I know.
He's also got one of the best masks in the NHL. I mean, he's got the best pads too. This dude's unreal. Get him on
Yeah,
the show. Send this guy a DM.
I will, man. Yeah, we'll try to get him on for next week so he
I'll
can
be
defend his
beating his
honor.
meat for 2 hours on this.
But yeah, we'll
Anyways,
get him on. No video on that show, of course. Um,
no.
you'll see that on Pornhub. Anyway, so Tristan Jarry is my pick. I know he had a rough series last year against the Islanders where he gave up a lot of bad goals. Um, but it wasn't all about that. Like I think a lot contributed to that series, and I just want to go over some regular season numbers right now. So in 1920, he played 33 games, and he won 20 of them, only losing 12, and gave one up in overtime. Um, he faced 985 shots that year, only gave up 78. His goals against was 2.43, and he had a 921 save percentage. So, like I was talking about earlier, in my mind, that's an elite. Those are elite numbers anyway.
Yeah, that's a
921
great
with
year.
almost 1,000 shots against. So I think that was a first, introduction year for him. Winning 20 games.
It's a good year. It's a really good
For
year.
sure. And then in 2020, 2021, he played 39 because of the COVID shortened season. But in those 39 games, he won 25 games, only lost 9, and dropped a couple in overtime. His shots against that year were 1,100. And out of 1,100 shots, he only let in 100. So he saved 1,000 shots that season um, in 39 games, which is unreal. Had a bit
Yeah.
worse of a goals against average. He had 2.75, but still under 3. And his save percentage dropped off a bit that year, coming in at 0.909. But still, I think he had a great regular season. It doesn't matter. You can look at save percentage and goals against and all that. But he got 25 wins, which is still like the dominant factor in a good team. And in a good team, everybody
It's
needs a
hard to
good
analyze a
goalie
goalie, man,
for sure.
by looking at numbers.
Yeah, I think it's a small sample size, but where I think this guy gets underrated is just in his playoff numbers. He's a young goalie. Like, which young goalie hasn't struggled in the playoffs yet? He'll learn to win. He'll get his shit together. I feel a lot of people call him a bad goalie just because those bad goals last year. But I think
Yeah.
if he's probably the most hard on himself. I don't. So I think a lot of people are underrating him, and I think he'll come back and have a fantastic regular season next year. And I think Pittsburgh is going to finish as one of the top teams again and go on to have a pretty good playoff run
I
too.
think he had a great year last year, didn't he? Like,
He had a
for the most
fantastic
part.
regular season, but where people are underrating him is just saying this guy's shit. He can't do nothing in the
He's not that
playoffs.
playoff goalie though. It seems like he's a bit. I was
But
watching that
that's a
series.
small sample size that I'm talking about. A lot of people are saying that, but I mean, name a young goalie that went into the playoffs and can do it consistently. I mean, you look at Jordan Binnington. Yeah, he did it
He
one
was like
year, but he
80.
didn't do it the next year.
No.
So
There's not many. Matt Murray, Pittsburgh goalie.
I suppose they're all Pittsburgh goalies, aren't they? Maybe that says
Yeah.
something more about the team than the goalies. But
Yeah. But that's a good pick, man, because he was second on my list because I looked at his numbers and I was saying, well, I mean, the dude's got like fucking good numbers, for the
great
most part.
numbers, almost Vasilevsky. I
Yeah.
think Vasilevsky's got like 5 more wins, and
Yeah. But
and he won the Vezina.
yeah, like we went over, I was just like fucking gassed up on Cam Talbot. I could not miss that opportunity, so I had to throw Tristan Jarry to the wayside for the time being.
No, for sure, I understand that. Cam Talbot's overlooked a lot too,
Every aspect of life, man.
for sure. I like our picks. Is there any runner-ups that we didn't get to, either for the overrated or underrated, that you'd like to just throw out?
Um, I don't know if I mentioned this in the podcast that I picked. I originally written down Jamie Benn as my overrated player because I
Yeah,
think people talk like in the last 2 or 3 years, man, it's like 30 something points a year, 40 points. I mean, I don't know why people are when they mention Dallas and they mention like scoring, they bring up Jamie Benn, man, because fuck, man, he's been on the bench for years now. hasn't he? He
Yeah.
doesn't. He's not the same player as he once was. He won at Ross and he's an Olympic gold in 2014. He was a great player at one point, but I don't know. I was gonna pick him, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna piss off some Vancouver fans. So
Why not? Yeah.
yeah, but
I think a lot of that comes because he was such a, what would he go in the fifth or sixth round? So I think a lot of that is just the, you know,
yeah,
adversity he faced to get to that level.
yeah. That was kind of my argument for Braden Point as well when he came as an underrated player. Facing a lot of adversity. But yeah, I didn't want shit on Jamie Benn, so I put that away. So
Nice, nice, good stuff.